Hey there, good people. So today we're going to talk about what they call the inner body and the outer body in the context of Chinese medicine. The outer body is what's referred to as feng shui. Now, if we hear feng shui, usually what we think about is Asian interior design or some new age practice where you put a gold tassel in a corner and something is supposed to miraculously change in your life. And that's really not the way we want to think about it. If we look at it classically, feng shui means wind and water. So what does that mean, wind and water? What that points to is the immaterial, the wind, and the water, the material. So within any given space, in a natural environment, a natural ecosystem, how wind moves through a terrain and how water moves through it is really important in terms of how people lived back in the day. So if we think about this tending to and paying attention to wind and water, this is at the crux of modern day feng shui. So what that means is within our spaces, where we live, where we do our work, where we raise our children, especially at home now with COVID and quarantine, we have to look at what is the wind and water dynamic of a room, of a space, of a property. What is the immaterial? How does our mind move through it, which means the things around us, what we're seeing, where furniture is placed, where our garden is, where our water supply is, where those things are have an effect on the immaterial aspect of us. And then, in addition to that, we also have to look at the water, the material, which is partially human beings. We are the material. So feng shui is predicated on human beings interacting with space. You can have the most amazing setup, the most natural, beautiful biome, but if nothing living, especially humans, but if nothing living interacts with it, then it's sort of just empty space. So we don't want to think of it like this. We want to think of wind and water. How does the immaterial and the material move through a space? And if we can get that, we're sort of pointed in the right direction about how feng shui works. So again, when they talk about the inner body and the outer body in Chinese medicine, what they're talking about in terms of the inner body is the vasculature, the tendons, the blood flow inside, as well as the spiritual aspects of a person and the emotional terrain that we all navigate in life, the ups and the downs. That's the internal body. Now the outer body, okay, the external body, is the space around us. So this basic idea comes up quite a bit in Chinese medicine, which is yin-yang theory. Yin-yang theory states, as above, so below. With hardness there is softness, with fire there is water, with birth there is death. So this oppositional interplay, the outer and the inner. And what yin-yang theory says, what it stipulates very clearly is that the two affect one another. The outer affects the inner and the inner affects the outer. It is a two-way street. The energies go back and forth two ways. So if we think about this in terms of the inner body and the outer body, this helps us really understand and gives us the mental framework why our external spaces matter. They matter because they are our external body. So a lot of us go to the gym, we eat well, we exercise, we do good things for what we put into our body because we know it makes us healthy. So what if I were to tell you that the space around you is equally as important? We're just not trained culturally to think about it, nor do we have a framework on how to plug into it. And cue the entrance of Chinese medicine, which has thousands of years of documented systematic approaches on how to augment the outer body for a bunch of different things. So when we look at feng shui, we look at spatial design. Try not to think of it as just this, new age fad. Think of it as an olden tradition that spent a lot of generations looking at how environments shape our psychology. If we tend to the outer body, our immune response is better, our mental faculties are better, and that's important because the immaterial, the emotional aspect, the things that we love, the things we can't see or measure, have a huge impact on how we live our lives. We forget this. So the material matters for sure. The measurable science matters. But then there's an immaterial aspect of life that we don't want to overlook. And what I encourage people to look at is that it's not just about exercising. That's a big piece and taking care of our bodies, but take care of the space outside of you. Now you're playing with a whole new set of units. Okay, there's a lot more power to circulate and a lot more things to tinker with as life gets rough and as we navigate. So in the context of COVID and quarantine, this insane lockdown that's been happening for 6 months that was supposed to start off as 1 month, we are all being thrust into the harsh reality of how important our spaces are because we are teaching our kids from home, we are working from home, We are being forced into proximity with our partners. Divorce rates are through the roof. So being mindful of your external space and really dialing that in is important. Do not underestimate it, especially now. I think it's one of the most valuable tools that we can be using right now. So the most simple takeaway that we can do when we approach this, first thing I tell my clients to do is clear off your surfaces. Decluttering or clearing clutter is one of the basic foundational principles of feng shui, but the easiest way to do it is to clear your surfaces. So look at the surface of your dining room table, look at the surface of your desk, the surface of your bathroom, the surfaces in your kitchen, any surface in your home, bookshelves, anything. Start looking at those and start looking at what's actually functional and how much you use it every day. The kitchen's a great place to start because most of us cook and we are there quite a bit, as well as bathrooms. So don't worry about the closets, don't worry about the basements, don't worry about the garages. Those are shit shows and we all know it. It's a huge mess for most of us. So try not to get hung up on the cleaning of those areas right now. Look at the common surfaces in your home. Look at what's functional. If you are not using something daily and it's not beautiful and you don't love it, get rid of it. Okay, spices. If we have 12 or 15 spices out and we realistically only use 3 a day, put the other 9 away. Get rid of them. If you have a blender that sits out for a month at a time, but you use it once a month, put it away. Now, some of us have smaller homes and larger homes, so do what you can, but spend time in getting rid of the clutter. Now, what I tell my clients is the basic way to approach this is, upon rising, set a timer for 5 minutes and clear the surfaces around you. Look at what's functional, keep what's functional, what's not functional, move it away, give it away, store it somewhere else. Do the same thing upon going to bed. So as you go to sleep, set the timer for 5 minutes, clear your surfaces. And after 1 week, take a look at your mental faculties and your emotional state by adding 10 minutes a day of basically just moving objects and moving debris and clutter off of your surfaces, and just take inventory of what that does to your mental and emotional spectrum. It's huge. And especially now, as we're all going a little stir crazy, especially in California with the fires and whatnot, it's really important to tend to the outer body. Don't forget it, okay? So tend to the outer body, and as you do that, your internal body will thank you. Hope this finds you well. Thanks a bunch.